What a great time to be a baseball fan. It seems like every week we see a young player come up from the minors and make an instant impact. And we have players like Elly De La Cruz who are changing the game for their team. And then a franchise like Baltimore who never seems to be a winner. And all of a sudden, they're the most exciting team to watch because they're filled with all of these prospects. The latest was Jordan Westburg, who just got called up and is playing his first major league game, coincidentally, against the Reds and Elly De La Cruz. Now, if you play fantasy baseball, you know that you want to have the top prospects that come up. These guys can be game changers for your league, like Michael Harris was last year. Like De La Cruz looks like he'll be this year. So who's next? Which player do you want to be stashing right now to get ahead of the game? Well, first things first, let's start with Jordan Westburg. I just talked about. He got the call. He's playing second base in his debut for Baltimore, though he does qualify at shortstop because that's where he played in the minors. You know, MLB just updated their pipeline top 100 prospects. Right now, Westburg is ranking number 34. So what is he going to bring to the table? Well, first of all, experience. Out of all of these prospects who are high up on the list, he's actually one of the older ones at age 24. He played in the NCAA, has that college experience. He's going to be a power-hitting middle infielder, and you know you got to love that. So what might hold him back from potentially being that game changer? Well, his profile right now is a little bit more power over hit tool, and with guys who tend to be more sluggers, well, swing and miss is not a good thing because they could get pull happy, could get a little too overeager, especially trying to prove their power at the major league level, and strikeouts lead to slumps, which lead to benching and demotions. So Westburg, you think, isn't a guy who'll do that, but there's always that potential. And the other thing is, unlike a guy like De La Cruz or even Harris last year, he's not going to swipe you a bunch of bags, so he's a little bit limited in terms of overall fantasy profile. And what about a guy like Jack Centurio, who was actually just a week ago the number 1 prospect on MLB's list, dropped all the way down to number 3. This is a 19-year-old outfielder who is just oozing power and speed, but mainly the speed is going to be elite. He does also have the potential to be a 25 to 30 home run guy on top of that. What's not to like? Like a lot of prospects who have those tools, doesn't always put them together, hitting about 250 at the AA level, and so there is a little bit of swing and miss to his game as well. He can get overly aggressive in his approach, so you gotta wonder if the hit tool will be there at the major league level. I would also say maybe it would be a con that he's, super young, but that really doesn't matter anymore. We can just throw age out the window these days, can't we? Never played above AA level? Who cares? 20 years old? Fine, join the big club. So that leads me to another 20-year-old. This is another shortstop by trade, Marcelo Mayer of the Boston Red Sox organization. Currently number 5 on MLB Pipeline's list. He's someone who does also have power as a middle infielder, similar to Westburg. Not as big a guy, but has shown that stroke. He is solid defensively. It's not for sure that he's going to stay at shortstop forever, but you can't say that about any of these guys. I don't care when it comes to fantasy. He can play whatever position he wants if he's hitting. But right now, you got to like the fact that he's got such a clear path to get that shortstop job. I mean, Boston's been juggling with like David Hamilton, sometimes Kiki Hernandez at shortstop. They're just holding his place. Now, what you got to worry about with Mayer is that, well, despite the power stroke, the home runs haven't really come. He hasn't shown that he can go yard consistently, and actually he's really struggling at the AA level with the bat, hitting 177. Speed, okay, but not a guy who's going to steal you 20-plus bases consistently at the major league level. Jordan Lawler of the Arizona Diamondbacks, also 20. He ranks number 7 right now. This is a guy who legitimately could be considered a 5-tool contributor, and he, unlike Mayer, has elite defense. He'll definitely stick at short, and he's going to be able to hold down that job permanently once he gets up to the big club. Geraldo Perdomo's been fine, but he could probably slide over to second eventually, maybe play third. Nick Ahmed's days are done. Lawler, to me, reminds me a little bit of Dansby Swanson. So even though it hasn't all come together yet, he definitely has that potential. The issue here, well, he just doesn't look ready for the next level with the bat quite yet. At the AA level, he hit 212 and 244 so far the last 2 seasons. The speed is great. No issue there. The defense is amazing. The thing is with that average, you can get away with that if you're slugging home runs. We could be more forgiving of a low average if you're driving in a bunch of runs. but he's not that kind of guy. That's why even though Arizona is very young this year and they've called up their share of prospects, he hasn't been one of them just yet. Let's keep going with another shortstop, although this is a guy who might switch positions if and when he gets called up to the Mets. That's Ronnie Mauricio. A little bit older here. He's 22 as of right now, and he's playing at the AAA level, so he's got a little more experience under his belt. He's number 62 on MLB's list, someone who has shuffled around quite a bit. He reminds me a little more De La Cruz in the way he looks and plays because he's a little taller and skinnier. You wouldn't profile him as a power hitter, but he's definitely got a good power stroke, especially from the left side. He is a switch hitter, which might be another advantage for him. Now, the concerns with him were, man, he could strike out way too much when he was first coming through the minors, and that's why he didn't stay as high up on the rankings list for prospects. A lot of people really haven't even taken notice too much. He's cut way down on his strikeout rate this year. It's now hovering around 15%. He still doesn't walk very much, and there is some swing and miss in his game, but still, this guy has so much upside. And I do like the fact that, well, now they're trying him out a little bit in left field. He could maybe play a little bit of third or second base if needed because, well, the Mets already have Brett Beatty at third. They got Lindor at shortstop. It might force him to the outfielder. That gives him more flexibility, that defensive eligibility in fantasy. You got to like it. And then let's go to San Francisco. Luis Matos has been up for a couple of weeks now. We'll see. I don't know that I can say he's going to be the next big thing because I don't see him as that high end of a prospect, and he hasn't proven that he is just yet. But I'm looking now at Marco Luciano. He's number 16 in the rankings. He's 21 years old, plays shortstop. He's had some injuries throughout his early career, but this guy has tremendous power potential, and he's got great bat speed, and that's why he's been so highly thought of, even though it hasn't quite come together yet. There are definitely some knocks against him. First, I'll just say the fact that he's in that San Francisco system because they've been a little more reluctant to call up some of their prospects, and then when they get there, they love to platoon and not give guys everyday playing time. It's not one of those teams I feel really good that a young guy can just be given a chance to thrive. Also, not the best hitting environment in that park. Oracle is one of the worst for hitters, especially for power hitters. And I already mentioned, got some injuries, back issues. That's something that could plague him potentially. You never predict injuries, but you don't like when a guy already at that young age has had recurring issues. And the last guy I want to talk about is Noelvi Marte. Why not throw out another red there? Doesn't matter that he plays the same position as De La Cruz, McLean. It doesn't seem to matter for them. They can put him at third base, which he's played a little bit too. Maybe slide him back over to second where he originally started. Now Marte is interesting because he was at one point their highest prospect. This guy came over from Seattle. He hasn't quite shown that he's going to be the next big thing. He hasn't developed quite as quickly as the team would like. Being in Cincinnati, you've got to feel good about the fact that they'll give him a shot because look what they've done this year and it's working. And so why not him next? If there's a knock against him, besides the fact that he's been a little slower to develop, is also the fact that he is not truly a speed guy. So he's going to have to rely a little bit more on his power. So who's it going to be? Who has a chance to be the next big impact prospect for fantasy? That guy that you should be adding and stashing right now before it's too late. I will say I was lucky, or maybe smart enough, that I traded for Jordan Westburg in 2 leagues and added him to stash him in an NA spot in another of my fantasy leagues before he got called. That's what you want to do, is you have to get ahead of the game. Once a guy gets called up and starts showing out, it's going to be too late, or you're going to have to spend up way too much of your fab. So I'll say right now, the guy I'm looking to make a move for first and foremost is Ronnie Mauricio. The Mets are obviously going all in on the youth movement. We've seen with Beatty, we've seen with Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, although he didn't quite pan out yet, but they are going to give these guys a shot. Mauricio should be next. This team needs a spark still. The offense has been really struggling. And what I'm most encouraged by, just like we saw with De La Cruz take that big step forward in plate discipline this year, Mauricio, who was kind of knocked for striking out too much, this year been a huge improvement, and his batting average is .311. He makes a lot of loud contact. He's got that power stroke. He's a switch hitter. He's a pretty good fielder. He's got all the tools. He's ready, and he is a little bit older. He's 22. This is a time for him to take the next step forward, and I think that he can thrive. That's the prospect I'm aiming to add right now. If you just want some waiver wire pickups or guys who can help you immediately, check this out.